I wanted to do a video project that was kind of against the flow of what you might expect from a technology company. I mean, inherently, we make monitors as kind of nerdy, but I wanted to do a video that was just the total antithesis of that, I guess. And so that's sort of what at least led me to think of sort of the perfume ad style.
Yeah, I think at the very beginning sitting in the office, we just rolled through like Cologne and perfume ads and got inspiration that way. And the big thing actually was the music. We started looking at like tracks from Enigma and like Enya and stuff like that.
Getting everyone there in the same day and getting them all prepared at the same time was relatively difficult. We had our female actress didn't show up until around 3:30 because she had to do hair and makeup, and she wasn't in town at the beginning of the day. So it was kind of a rush to get the rest of those shots. So I mean, we were shooting until like 6:30 or something at night when it was literally dark outside and the lights were turning on, but we had to get shots that made it look like daytime. Fortunately, we were shooting on the F3 with the S-Log codec and shooting uncompressed, so we could pull a huge amount of data from those pictures it was clearly nighttime when you just look at the raw footage, but in color grading we were able to just pull out so much data.
We actually almost decided to stop at one point.
That's right.
We about called it a wrap, and then I remember we just kind of looked at each other and was like, let's just do it. Let's just try to do it. I think a big part of that too is the team we had out there worked so well together, I think. Everyone sort of fell really naturally into the place that they were gifted in, and
it made it really smooth. I mean, it was like the most easygoing shoot ever. We got tons of shots. I mean, the whole thing in one day, and it was like it was never stressful. It was just kind of like, half the time we were just kind of hanging around and just getting shots that we thought looked kind of fun or whatever. So we shot the commercial on two different cameras. We used the Sony F3 and the Sony FS100. The reason we split them was the 60p or the slow motion shots that we wanted. We couldn't do with the F3, at least with the Gemini recorder, which we're using for acquisition for the uncompressed capture. The F3 setup was the F3 with the S-Log firmware, which is basically just like a fancy word for better dynamic range and a more flat picture profile, which is ideal for shooting, things that you're going to have to color grade. I feel like it's almost a necessity if you plan on getting an F3 to go ahead and get that extra gear that will allow you to shoot in S-Log, because it basically, the S-Log removes all of any of the internal processing that makes a picture look any certain way. So basically it looks anonymous. It's just like, this is the picture and you can make it look however you want. And that's what I really, really like about it. Being a person who's really into cameras and the way that they work, it's always distracting for me personally, looking at videos that it's just like, clearly this is shot on this camera, and it always kind of like takes over my mind. And I'm sure a lot of other cinematographers can sort of relate to that.
All the shots with the girl were going to be sort of in nature, sort of centered around nature. Then all the guy shots were sort of that cold corporate feel. And then when they come together and the worlds would sort of meet.
There was just happened to be a metal tree out at the art museum, and so we sort of decided like, well, what if it was like a monitor tree, since it's made out of metal, maybe this thing is like growing monitors. Literally all this stuff we came up with after we had decided on the location, we were like gonna shoot it. But I was like, I think on the day of shooting, it was like nature, I guess, represents like the aesthetics or the beauty, I guess, of the product, and the industry side of things, the more corporate side, is like the technology or whatever. So it literally means nothing, but because we came up with it on that day.
Sarah, the girl in the ad, I met maybe a week before we started shooting. I saw her and I was like, that's exactly it. Like, that's the look. She decided to do it after about 5 days of me kind of emailing and texting, like, you gotta do it. It'll be a lot of fun, really easy to work with, you know, it'll be great. Rick, I met through a friend of a friend. He's actually from Missouri. He flew in to do this, which we were really surprised that he would, you know, take the time to do that. He just nailed it. All of his stuff was just like perfect, like perfect, first take, you know, so.
The like look that he gives at the end is just like
money, just money. But yeah, they did really well for not having, you know, much experience, you know, doing that kind of thing at all. And they took direction really well, you know, and they were into it. You know, it always helps when you know, the people involved are really
they were always
this,
like asking us questions about, you know, how it came up and whatnot, just because they just thought it was kind of a neat concept, and yeah, I mean that counts in spades. I guess in the different projects I've done, this one came together more like it fit the vision that I had for it more than any other project, I would say. Just like the look of it, the way that it plays out, kind of how we, you know, thought of it in our heads, like, well, we want it to sort of convey this and look this way. It fit that really well, which I was pretty excited about.
It's so much more collaborative than I thought. And the big thing too, and I love working with Barrett because he's really good at listening to everyone. And so a big part of the team that we worked with, like, everyone was listening to each other.
What? No, I'm kidding.
Farrah. No, it was really cool though, because you know, working with having a good team to work with that really listens to each other, listens to each other's ideas and perspective. I mean, it's huge, you know.
Yeah.
It's a real like blessing to be able to work with people like that.
And especially like you said, I mean, when you have a team of people that are all into the project, you know, if everyone's into it, then like you kind of have to take their ideas into consideration, and you know, it just ends up being such a good collaborative effort that way. I mean, it really is like it's sort of the fruit of everyone's labor.